So tāne takituake, which literally means men standing together. So with all the issues within Māori households, children being beaten, our men not being positive role models, a group of men got together and they decided that they had to come up with something to try and swerve that tsunami of dysfunction to another direction. So this was the result of that brainstorming session, tāne takituake. It's really important to us, especially the name tāne. Does anyone know the significance of tāne other than being the name for a man? Tāne is the God of mankind, and we are very honoured and privileged to be able to hold that name. First thing we tell our men when they enter the program, when you go onto the marae, what does it say above the men's toilet? Tāne. So we do have an obligation to uphold the sacred name that we hold. So tāne takituake, men standing together. So in the beginning, you would have heard Aaron speaking about it. He was one of the originals. Tim was also, and another great man here, Tracy Ormsby. So in the beginning, it just started off as a simple program teaching physical activity and nutrition. And they used to engage possibly 2 days a week, but it's evolved into so much more now. Is everyone familiar with the whare tapawhā? That whole holistic look at well-being. I'm not going to get too much into it now because Richard and I will speak more in depth about it later. But this is one of the primary models that we use, but we don't just talk about it, we get out there and we engage the whare tapawhā. So the success to this program has been the collaboration that's involved with us. Okay. So pā tu watawata traditionally was a fortified pā. So whenever tupuna Māori were in trouble, they would go back up into the hills and they would put themselves in the centre of the pā, surrounded by their palisadings, or tu watawata. But what we decided, or what the founders of the program decided, was to look at each individual as being the centre of their pā tu watawata, and who are the defences going to be around them. So they came up with this collaboration. So korowai aroha is the first point of entry. So people come in and off the streets, people being referred by our nurses or our doctors, and we've got many more external organisations referring into us now. Cancer Society, so they run 3 in-depth sessions on cancer prevention or reduction, and just like the Cancer Society, Heart Foundation and our diabetes specialists, they all focus on 3 things: plant-based diet, regular exercise and socialising. Those 3 things together work as a synergy to help people become well. Matua whāngai is a local marae that we use at Rotorua. So we take our men right back to the start. We give them a cultural foundation right at the beginning of our program, and we also return there at the end of it. Heart Foundation, they come in and they run one basic session around heart disease, stroke. And we also get a nutritionist who comes in and teaches the men how to cook a healthy kai using meat. Rotorua Aikido Club, even though Tim doesn't look like it, he's an expert in Aikido. So what he does is he's incorporated his martial art into our program, and he emphasises the whare tapawhā as well, using the techniques that he uses. Toi te ora, so we have a dietitian who comes into Toi te ora. She's a vegetarian. A lot of the men get a bit scared about that, a vegetarian, but the kai that she cooks is really beautiful, and a lot of the men have come back and said, we've tried that with our whānau and they loved it. So it's about giving our men alternatives, because they know that a lot of the problems they're facing today has been due to their nutrition and their diet. Te Aroha Whānau Ora, we're very fortunate that we work alongside Whānau Ora back in Rotorua, so they're in the same building as us. So when our men come through and we get to hear these stories, we're able to refer them onto Whānau Ora, who can help them with other things that are going on within their homes. And Whānau Ora helps them with things like driver's licensing so they can get back to work, insulation for their homes to keep them healthy. But there's many things that Whānau Ora can do for them. Utuhina ki Manaakitanga. They're a local drug and alcohol service in Rotorua, so they come in and run services on addiction and mental health. But we've been fortunate just this week on Friday, we've had one of the main men from Lakes DHB in their mental unit come down, and now he's going to be a part of our program. So he goes a bit more in depth into what mental health is. The addiction side of it is quite interesting because a lot of the men that come in do come in with addictions, be it food, cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, and other things out there affecting them. But when they get to hear this kōrero, because it's all kaupapa Māori based as well, they hear this kōrero, they feel comfortable, so they go and self-refer themselves into that service, which has been great for us. But the main thing is we're not there to judge them, but we do let them know that they're on a health and wellbeing journey. So we're not there to force them to stop, but we're there to help them, guide them in the right directions. Waiari ki Pūria Trust. One of the big highlights of our program for our men is that we get to take them out on a traditional waka. You've all got a sample of the waka in your handouts. So for us, the waka is not only physical, but it's also a metaphor for who do you want on your waka to help you towards positive health and wellbeing. So when the men actually get to see it, at first to participate in the actions of being on a waka and then see it on paper, it gives them a method of goal setting for their wellbeing other than the other systems that are being used out there. You know, and it teaches them a lot about who they are, their identity. Tupuora. Tupuora offers a smoke cessation program in Rotorua. They've been able to help a lot of our men get off the cigarettes, myself being one of them, and I'm very thankful to them for that. But a lot of our men, they're very stubborn. We have a goal setting session right at the pre-interview, and we ask them what their goals are, and we go, would you like smoke cessation assistance? No. But week 3, week 4, they start to realise that they're making this big change in their lives, so they take that extra step again and they try and get off the cigarettes. But again, we're not there to judge them, but we're there to help them along on their journey. The New Zealand Police Force has been a great one for us. The local area police commander, Anaru Pewhairangi, he's part of our program. Now what he does is he comes in and talks to our men about community health and wellbeing. He sees our program as being an alternative rather than sending low offenders into jail, sending them on to programs like ours so that we can help them be role models within their whānau. And he's been one of the biggest advocates for this program. So we're very thankful that he's jumped on board, and very lucky he's a whanaunga of mine. So it was, hey cuz, can you come and talk to our men please? Waiora is a local tourism group. So they operate a park, Tikitere Hell's Gate to Rotorua. It's the largest Māori-owned geothermal park in New Zealand. And they've jumped on board with us because they encourage and they support what we're doing out there in our community. So a lot of the men that come to our program, they can't even walk to their letterboxes when they first start. But at the end, in week 8, we take them up to the geothermal park. Every one of them does the 2.7k walk around it, and they don't even realise that they've walked that distance. So it's about putting our men into environments where you're taking their mind off what they're actually doing and letting them just take that journey. Our mentors, we use a lot of past participants to come in as role models for our men and to keep them going along on their journey. Our biggest hope, tāne taki tūake men standing together, is that when they leave our program after 10 weeks, that group stays together and they become the support base for each other. And that's been very important to the success of this program. So we use our mentors a lot, and QE, the original partner of this program. So what QE offers is 3 months free membership into their gym. And when the men hit that gym, that's when they start to make those real big changes within their lives. They start becoming more active. They feel better about themselves. They're becoming more stronger. Then they're encouraging their children, their wives, their families to get out there and to be more active. So the success of being able to collaborate with Aaron and his group has been, and all these other organisations that help us, has been the real success of what we're doing out there. We couldn't do it by ourselves. You know, we have to have a collaboration of like-minded people all heading for the same goal, which is to help our community and help our society. So we focus on 5 different names of our atua tāne. Can anyone define for me what atua means? Some say gods, atua gods, the Māori gods, but for me it's more simple than that. It's those who are away from us. Atu means away from. Atu a is the act of being away from. So haere mai, come to me, haere atu, go away from me. So that's how I define what atua in my sense is those who are away from us. We don't want to cause any collisions with religion or anything like that, but we have a belief system that we believe works, because this is where we take our men on their journey. So we have 5 different names for our atua tāne. The first one is tāne whakapiripiri. So this is the first 2 weeks of our program. The sole purpose of the first 2 weeks is to bond our men together. So that's when we start getting into all the cultural stuff. We start getting them to identify who they are, to look back into their past to find out who they are. He tāne whakapiripiri, 2 weeks. The next 6 weeks of the program is called tāne te waiora. That's when they get into the gym. That's when the nutritionist, the dietitian, Heart Foundation, Diabetes Society, that's when all these groups start to come in and help them to heal. Tāne te waiora, tāne the healer. In the last 2 weeks of the program, tāne tokorangi, he who propped up the Sky Father. In Māori creation, which we'll go on a bit more later on, tāne was able to separate earth and sky. So tāne tokorangi is about maintenance and propping yourself up. So the last 2 weeks of our program is focused on getting our men ready to self-manage their well-being once they leave the program. But we always do follow-ups on them. Sometimes we'll go back 2 years to see how the men are doing. But it's about them propping themselves up and becoming a unit. The other 2 tāne that we use is tāne te wānanga. Everything that we teach our men, we want them to go back into their whānaus and to educate them as well. So tāne te wānanga, tāne the educator, to be the role models. And the last one we use is tāne te uetika, he who stands tall and proud. A lot of the men who enter our program, you know, they've been downtrodden all their lives. So they enter our program like this, but after 10 weeks they stand tall and proud. They are tāne te uetika. Who is this program for? It was primarily focused and designed for Māori men with high health and social needs. Other ethnicities including Pākehā and non-Māori, Pacific Islanders. And clients referred for help with diabetes, heart disease, respiratory conditions, obesity, mental health, and long-term and recent unemployed and relationship issues. So it was primarily focused for Māori men only, but we wanted to see if our cultural model would work with non-Māori, so we've taken on other ethnicities as well, and it's proven to work for anyone. We've had a lot of the original clients had diabetes, heart disease, respiratory conditions, but now we're seeing a lot more men coming through with anxiety, depression, all those mental health issues out there in our society, and it's been great to see that the model is actually working for them too. We do get people with psychosis and head injuries and things like that. We do struggle to work with them, but they prove that they can commit to the program. The only thing they can't take away is being able to role model it amongst their whānaus, because their cognitive skills is not able to retain the information that we're giving them. But it doesn't mean that we turn them away. We work with everyone. Long-term and recent unemployed. We've had a lot of men who have been long-term unemployed. They haven't worked 10, 20 years due to just being unmotivated. So WINS will send them along to us, and then just within a matter of 10 weeks they're back out there working again. And it's been proven because now MSD are funding our program. They've seen the results of the program. So our referrals come from our local PHO RAFs, but they don't support us enough financially. General practice, so what we do is we go out into all the health centres and now we present our program. So we're getting a lot more referrals from external health providers now. The DHB sends a lot of people into our service. We don't usually get too many self-referrals, but we do get the odd one that does come through. And we actually like working with them because they've come and they've sought that help out themselves. Whānau do self-refer, especially children are referring their father in because he's either obese, he's unmotivated, he's really sick. So the children tend to ring us up and ask us if their father's too old or if he'd be eligible for the program. And it's quite good because we already know that their father's already got that support system in place for him when he leaves. It's his kids that are going to help him through. Just in the last couple of years, probations have seen that we've been able to help motivate a lot of the men that are just coming out of jail and to get back out there into society and to thrive, to reach their potential. A lot of our men, as I talked about inequity before, they just don't know how to operate properly. They've lived in a dysfunctional environment their whole life. But when they come in and we take them back to the start, teach them about our ancestors and traditional Māori traditions, that's when they start to take responsibility for themselves.
So, this is just a picture of some of our men. These are the type of men we get in for our program. A lot of them are obese, a lot of them have had heart attacks, all kinds of problems, diabetes, we see it all. This is just the nutrition session that Kiwi was talking about with our vegetarian nutritionist. We love her. So anyway, cultural interventions. I think one of the things that makes our program quite successful is that we have a really good mix between our cultural and clinical interventions. So because we're kaupapa Māori, of course we start with a pōhiri, and we have a pōhiri, but in our pōhiri, I think Kevin and I, we talk about our own experiences, and we have both had what you call not the best experiences growing up in life, and we're quite open and honest about that. And so we talk to the boys, and then we find that they too become quite open and honest about why they're there. So really it sets up the program quite nicely for about, they can relate to each other because there's, they can find connections, whether it be the same kind of problems that they're there with, or they're all there for a common goal or something like that. So our pōhiri involves a lot of honesty. We do a pōtaitanga, which is a graduation, and that's all about, we give out a certificate in the end, and that's just because a lot of the guys have never graduated from anything in their life, So they're really proud to stand up at the end and get their certificate in front of everybody, and that's just to make, they feel really uplifted. We do a couple of noho marae, one early in the first 2 weeks we do an overnight noho. And that's about whanaungatanga, them getting to know each other. We all got to listen to each other snore at night at the marae. But we also do a lot of our cultural stuff in the first 2 weeks. So it's, setting them up for the program. We do one at the end as well, and that's about, as Kevi said before, it's about getting them ready to leave the program and take what they've learned out into to their whānau and to their community and whoever they can, spread what they've learned with. We go through pepeha, of course, so getting to know their area, where they're from. A lot of them come into the program they don't know. We get guys who've lived overseas for years and they've got no connection to their Māori side. So we make sure that they get to learn their pepeha, and it gives them a grounding where they belong. And we get them to recite that at the pōtaitanga, at the graduation as well. And for a lot of them, it's the first time they've actually been able to recite a pepeha, and they're quite proud of that. As Kiwi mentioned before, we used whare tapa whā, and man, it works for everything, Tapa whā. When you treat someone as a whole, we get diabetes, heart attacks, mental illness, heart disease. It works for everything. It just works. You know, waka tete, we go out on a waka, and do a bit of that stuff, and that's a lot about wairua. Actually, I think it's all the things we do uplift your wairua, uplift your spirit. But as far as the waka tete, that's one of the things that we talk about, the tapawhā in activation, because they're using their body to do the actual paddling. They're using their mind because we teach them a few of the salutes. They're working together as a team, which is the whānau. And what's the bit I left out? The wairua. Yeah, they all, they just feel really good after they've done it. And so that's one of the highlights actually of our program is the waka. And it's also a way that we can activate all sides of the tapawhā in one go without them knowing until afterwards. We teach the men a haka with various degrees of success. I think the health centres, they pick the most unco guys and then send them to us. So we're getting he's while the other ones are doing ha's. However, they feel like warriors when they're doing their haka, and they perform that at the pōtaitanga as well. And that haka has been written specifically for the program, so they can take that away, and it just reminds them of their journey. Our tuatanga, we go on. We teach them a lot about the atua and how it's relevant for us today. For an example, we talk about how tāne went up to collect the 3 baskets of knowledge, and he needed help from his brother Tāwhiri Mātia, and now they were at odds before tāne was set on that task, but he had to ask his brother for help. And we just use that as an example to the men of why, if they need help, they need to ask for it, eh? Like if the atua can do it, we need to be able to do it as well. Put your pride aside, eh? Ask for help if you need it. So we use it in that sense. We're Māori, so we karakia before and after every session. But before, that's also a chance for some of the guys, to practice doing karakia. So, some of them aren't used to it and all want to give it a go. So it's a safe place for them to have a bit of a practice in their reo. We take them out into the bush. We do a native kai session. We get a bit of pirita and piko and hakeka, which is the mushrooms, and then after we've collected the kai, we actually go out and cook it, so that they not only gather the kai, they get to taste what it tastes like. And we also, while we're out there, we show them the basic Maori rongoa, how to identify the Maori rongoa. We also do a bit of a maurako session, which is taiaha, and again that's activating all 4 sides of the tapawhā at the same time. Tikanga and kaua, that's born out of the marae, and that's about rules and regulations, and we take it a step further than that. They can use kaua and tikanga in their own homes. So it's about, say, the kaua of their home is to have a healthy home. The tikanga would be no smoking, no drinking in your house. And so it's a way for them to set boundaries for themselves, and instead of just using those tikanga and kaua at the marae, you can actually incorporate them into your own life. There's a handsome Maori warrior up the front. But that's actually Kiwi and I, not this Waitangi, the Waitangi Pass. We paddled up in Waitangi during the celebrations, and just the lift it gives to your spirit, when you're in front of all those people and paddling, it's just awesome. So we know the feeling that the guys get when they're actually on the waka, and it's just amazing. We used to have this guy Charles Royal, he's quite well known, take us out to do our native kai. He doesn't do it anymore, but he taught us well, and so we know all the places to go and what to look for ourselves now. And that's just a bit of mauraka, the boys being pretending to be warriors, not very fierce in that one.
So when we started this program, it is important to have some data behind it because when you're talking to funders, academics, GPs, and just generally people want to know, what's the numbers, what's your outcomes, etc. So from day dot, we sort of started a quantitative spreadsheet of a lot of biomarkers from the men to prove whether we were making a difference. Maybe we weren't making a difference, so we had to do something. So in this here, so basically, if you can think that, my role as a diabetes nurse, I'm sitting in my consult room, I've got half an hour, whatever it is, with this person, I'm telling him about diabetes, blah, 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 he goes out the door. I really don't feel like I've engaged very well with him. He's probably thinking, oh yeah, I didn't know what the hell he was on about or whatever. We put him through the program, and everything that Kevy and Rich has said now comes into fruition and meaning. So with that, we at the beginning of the week one, we take a series of obs. So we'll take their waist circumference, we take their blood pressure, cholesterol, lipids, A1Cs, the main indicators for whether you're going to die or not later on in your life. These are the main indicators that are going to be pertinent to them. We do take weight, although that can be a bit of a negative thing. Often the men, like Kevy said about, they'll put up a goal, and one of their goals is lose weight, because it's an automatic thing. And if they don't lose that weight in 10 weeks, they can go, and yet they can improve everything else. So we tend to go with waist circumference, because we know that if we lose that waist circumference, an inch off the waist circumference, has tenfold for the rest of the body. So, and that's something they can easily measure with a tape measure and things. So if you look at all of our data, basically HDL, whilst we take these obs, a lot of the men will go, oh yeah, I've kind of heard about cholesterol or whatever. With interventions, they learn a lot more about cholesterol, where it's found, how to get rid of it, all that sort of stuff. HbA1c, what diabetes is all about. Kurawai has 91% of our enrolled population are high needs, about 83% are Māori in Pacific Island, and we're at the detriment of a lot of socioeconomical factors. So these guys, their health literacy increases. Okay, so 77% of them have increased their HDL over a 10-week period. So that's a good thing to combat lipids. Cholesterol overall's gone up, the whole lipid profile gone up by 74%. Waist circumference has reduced by 62%. So that's a good thing. Around about 60% of them will lose weight as well, and your A1C is improved by 55%. So if you're looking, these were ones that had an A1C greater than 50. Okay, so if over 10 weeks we're basically reducing them from 49% down to 40%. So there's basically, what that's saying is there's around about 9% of those diabetics that we have on the program have a drop of around 9%. Okay, so we also do. We talked before about an evaluation, a pre-interview before you come onto the program, and part of that is also done around a self-evaluation of what they think about themselves, again pre and post. And what we did with this was, this is really my understanding of managing my health has improved very much so. My skill level in managing my health has improved very much so. So the blues and the greens. So what that's basically saying is I've got a better understanding of my diabetes or pre-diabetes, because we talk a lot about that as well, and I've got a better understanding of actually how to improve that. With tools, if I'm in the consult room and I'm going on about diabetes, you need to eat better, blah, 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 go see a vegan nutritionist. I go, oh, what the heck, no way. They go through the program and that's exactly what they get, but they kind of get it. And it really amazes me. We've had a couple of post lunches where the boys have put on lunch, and the healthy food that they bring to a luncheon, post program. So, and also for every tāne with improved health literacy, the whānau has also improved our literacy, because you've got to remember that the tāne is here, but his whānau's behind him as well. And that's one of the reasons the program was set up, is what is the role model of a tāne. You know, we do hear a lot about clinical and cultural interventions, and Aaron referred to the fact in QE that was set up, and now we've got this program, and it's kind of like, oh, it's all new. In actual fact, we're probably bringing nothing new to the table. The MOH has talked about a cultural and clinical interventions for many years, but they've yet to, I've yet to see a fully integrated model around. Okay, there's either been lots of cultural or lots of clinical, and if you marry the two together, well, this is the results that we seem to get. So, from a from a clinical perspective, I find it really this program's been really good for us nurses, because we feel like we're actually making an achievement here. You know, it's not putting taxpayers' money down the drain, and for my time to see one of my 380 odd patients with diabetes and knowing I'm not going to get anything, you know. So this is a beautiful blend of the clinical and the cultural, and it can only happen with the formation of the program that we've done. Yeah, graduation's a really good time. You know, we actually it's a time when the men can actually stand up and say what their changes have been, and the whānau can stand up and say what their changes have been. And we've had tears, we've had men apologise to their wahine in front of everybody for the way that he's treated her. You know, there's some really powerful movements that have been going on there, emotionally and physically, psychologically, that are coming to fruition. And what we do find, some of our men that have graduated have gone on to start other programs, such as Sharpen Up program, one of our programs. What it was a group session for men where they can come and bounce off each other and just have camaraderie. There's been other little programs that other men have started as well along the way. So if they can learn something from the program and grow. The other thing that sometimes happens is people fall off the wagon, and they may go out of existence for a couple of months, and then they'll come back in, and sometimes they'll say, you know, the thing that helped the most was blah 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 on the program that brought me round to get me back on the waka again and get my health back in shape. Richard talked about the certificates. Yeah, there's an immense amount of pride and emotion that goes up when they have their certificate, and some of them will put them on their wall, their whānau will put them on the mantelpieces. There's a lot of pride in that. This chap here actually, this one here with his 203 number, that he was interesting because he did the Fletcher Marathon 30 years ago, and he had this bit of his tag that they wear, you know, in the marathons on the table, and we went around there and thought, oh gosh, that's really neat. And tell us about that, Ross. Oh, that was a marathon I did 30 years ago, but that's nothing. So we I can't remember whether we snuck it out. I think we snuck it out and we framed it for him so that we could give it to him as a memento, like, you ran that marathon, you know, you did it. Doesn't matter about the time. The fact is you went all the way around Lake Rotorua. So, you know, it's about bringing that emotional win in there so that sustains that behaviour change for them.